Ladies and gentlemen, sports fans alike, welcome to another edition of Bill Swerski, Sports Talk Chicago, one of the couple, two, three best podcasts around. In this episode, we're going to be discussing how the NHL accidentally did the right thing in the AllStar Game, the Bulls stinking up the joint, the Blackhawks getting a well-deserved rest, and we're going to be talking about the wide receivers in the NFL draft. But first, we'd like to thank our sponsor, the Ice Hogs. If you're not familiar with the Rockford Ice Hogs, they're the AHL minor league team of the Chicago Blackhawks. Get to see the Blackhawks Stars of Tomorrow today at a family-friendly, affordable price. Only 90 minutes from the city limit at the BMO Harris Bank Center, Rockford, Illinois. Go to icehogs.com, tell them Swerski Sports sent you. Next home game is Friday, February 5th, 7 p.m. against the Griffins. And it's whiteout day. So the first 2,500 fans will get a free Toyota Ice Hogs t-shirt. Make sure you go out and support your Ice Hogs and support your future Blackhawks. Icehogs.com. So sit back, grab yourself a cold one and a Polish sausage, park your keister in the French room, and listen to Bill Swerski, Sports Talk Chicago.
In Chicago, you know that all sports rock. The Bears, Hawks, Bulls, Cubs, and Sox. Pick your favorite, you can choose, as long as the Packers lose. For everything you need to know, it's Bill Swerski, Sports Talk Chicago. Bill Swerski, Sports Talk Chicago.
Hey everybody, thanks for checking out another episode of Bill Swerski, Sports Talk Chicago. This is your host, Sean, and we are going to dive right in with Blackhawk talk. So since the last time we had an episode, we're talking about how the Blackhawks were finding their stride and getting the momentum, but not to freak out about having a long stretch of games in a short amount of days, because bad things happen when you have tired legs and you're a team that everybody's gunning for. It's really hard to stay up every single night and put in the 100% effort it takes in the NHL when you're just exhausted. And it finally culminated on the last game before the AllStar Game against the Carolina Hurricanes, and just the train came off the tracks, and the Hurricanes whitewashed the Blackhawks. And my best friend and his brother-in-law and dad were at the game thinking that they were going to see their Blackhawks in dominant form, and lo and behold, they just get blown out. And Taves leaves the game sick. It ends up, because he's sick and couldn't play in the All-Star Game, suspended one game, which is just absolutely asinine. The guy is sick. Taves would, I'm sure, love to play in the All-Star Game. But, I'm not upset about this loss. It was a joke. Lately I've been having to DVR the start of games because the games all start just when I'm putting my daughter down to bed, and she will not go down to sleep. It's just a nightmare. She just doesn't want to go to sleep. But that's neither here nor there. Anyway, so I tape the beginning of the game, and I come down and I start DVR, and during the intermissions I catch up to where we are live, and I didn't even get that point in that game. I was just like, I knew what the score was. I knew what happened. And then once I saw it 3-0, I was like, done. I'm just going to call it an early night and go to bed. And I wasn't upset. Typically, I get a little bummed out about games like that and frustrated. But it was just, like I said, the culmination of just being exhausted, playing so many games in so few days. And if you're going to have that loss, have it now while you're headed in the All-Star break. You get several days, nearly a week off, the better part of a week off. Everyone except for Kane gets just absolute rest, gets set back up, and then they come back out on Tuesday for the start of the second half of the season. It's as easy as that. Just getting well rested. This team is so talented. You don't lose to Carolina with this talented of a team for no reason. So even though it was a bad loss, I'm not taking anything away from it more than than face value that it is just tired guys. But since we're speaking about where they're at and where they could be, let's compare the Blackhawks in their first 53 games from this season versus last season. Last season, clearly being they won a Stanley Cup, their third Stanley Cup in this Taves era, and comparing them to that team. At this point in the season, they're I don't have my glasses on, so I'm looking at my notes here. They're 33-16-4. So the Blackhawks' record through 53 games this year, they're at 70 points. At this point last year, they were 33-18-2 with 68 points. So pretty even, but the edge to this season, 2 points ahead of where they were. So basically the equivalent of one win. And this year they had 12 consecutive game winning streak, which is a franchise record. The longest winning streak they had last year was 8 games. So doubled that, or 50% increased that. Corey Crawford's record this season is 28-12-2, including a league best 7 shutouts, which is, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I looked this up maybe a couple weeks ago, but I believe that is more shutouts than he's had in the last 3 seasons combined. So Crawford playing well. This time last year he was 21-12-2 and only had 1 shutout. So a significant better play by Corey Crawford this season. Sorry, but took a pause there for a second. Is 73. That's the points Patrick Kane has through this season, the first 53 games, including a career-high 30 goals already. Last year, through the first 53, he had 59 points, including 26 goals. So it's pretty crazy to think of how phenomenal he's been this year. And if you look back, sure, he's better this year, but it's not astronomically better. It's you're looking at 4 more goals. So is that like 13% more goals? And so you're not significantly more in points. 73-59, 26-30 in goals. It's Kane. Kane has been an exceptional player since he's been to the Blackhawks, and he's only just getting better now. Let's see. 7 Blackhawks who made their NHL debut this season. You have Artemi Panarin, Eric Gustafsson, Dennis Rasmussen, Vincent Hinostroza, Tanner Caro, Victor Svedberg, and Mark McNeil. And last year you had 7 Blackhawks at this time who made their debuts. Trevor Van Riemsdyk, Kyle Baun, Philip Deneau, Ryan Hartman, Michael Paleota, Adam Clendenning, and Klaus Dahlbeck. Let's see. This year there's 10 players in the Blackhawks who there's 10 players in the Blackhawks lineup in Game 53 who weren't on Tuesday's roster due to trade, reassignment, or injury. So David Rundblatt, Patrick Sharp, Marcus Kruger, Brandon Saad, Johnny Oduya, Ben Smith, Brian Bickle, Joakim Nordstrom, Brad Richards, and Antti Raanta. Those were all players that were on this roster for Game 53 last year that are not on the Blackhawks roster this year. So you have turnover of 10 players from this point last year. You can technically say 11 too, because Chris Versteeg was on the injured reserve at that point. But as you can see, this Blackhawks team is really shaping up to continue on where they left off last year, which is really hard. And in the salary cap era, that's really unheard of to have back-to-back Stanley Cup champions. It's still a long way to go, and there's still so many good teams in the NHL, and anything can happen. But through the first 53 games out of an 82-game schedule, you are looking at Blackhawks really continuing the dominance that they had last year. So fingers crossed on that. And then I'm ending the Blackhawks segment with 2 questions. And I'm hoping you guys can give feedback on what your thoughts are, because I have my own thoughts, but I really want to hear what you guys have to say. The first one is, who is the MVP for the Blackhawks in the first 53 games of the season? Is it Corey Crawford or is it Patrick Kane? And I had an answer, and I really did, and I gave it some thought, and I sat down and stewed over it a little bit. And then I sat down to record, and as I'm going through things, I changed my mind. I really did. Is as much as Patrick Kane has meant to this team, and he's been unbelievable, I think it's not just been him. He's been the focal point of a chemistry on a line that was put together, and you can't give him all this success without giving some to Artemi Panarin and Artem Anisimov. And I feel like that collective line can't get the MVP because it's a 3-headed monster. So I'm not going to give it to Patrick Kane. I'm going to go with Corey Crawford. And here's why. Is Corey Crawford has just really stepped up this year. I mean, he's a Stanley Cup winning goalie. He's played well. He's got his big contract now, but he is playing really well. This team had some struggles on the defensive side, and they had trouble scoring goals. They had Duncan Keith was hurt for a while, and Michael Roosevelt was not in, and they are struggling to figure out who their 6th defenseman is. And you have essentially 2 rookies in there as defensemen. You're trying to pair them up with veterans to minimize any sort of risk with of having 2 rookies on the same defensive pairing. And all of this, and Corey Crawford still posted a much better record and posted 7 times as many shutouts this year as opposed to where he was at this point last year. Corey Crawford has really stepped up and overcome all these long droughts of not being able to score goals. And he's been able to just fight off a lot more shots than he's typically used to seeing. Corey Crawford has been great. And as much as you need superstars to win the Stanley Cup in this era, the truth is, if you don't have a goalie that's on fire, you're not going to win a Stanley Cup. And having Corey Crawford have his best season ever now, especially the way you've been playing, that bodes really well for the Blackhawks. I mean, I know anything can happen, and he could get hurt, or he could go on a cold streak, or he loses confidence, or whatever the case may be. The defense around him just collapses. Anything can happen, but we're a huge chunk of the regular season. I mean, we're more than we're 20% into the second half of the season, so it's we're really far into the season, and this is something that I really expect to keep going, and it bodes well for the Blackhawks going to try to defend their Stanley Cup title. So I want to know what you guys think. Is it Patrick Kane or is it Corey Crawford, or hell, is it a third person that's yet unnamed? I want to hear what you guys have to say. And the second one is, what are we going to see post AllStar Game for the Blackhawks? And again, none of us have a crystal ball. All we can do is kind of gauge the way they've been playing and what their trajectory is and things like that. See some trends. And the way I look at it is, the second half of the season, and I call the second half of the season, even though they've played more than half their games already. It's because in basketball and hockey, you have your All-Star Game midway through the season. It's like your breaking point. So I refer to anything pre-All-Star Game as first half, and anything post-All-Star Game as second half. So Blackhawks they've played more than half their games in the first half of the season, which, when you look at it, you're going to be playing You got 53 games, so you've got roughly 30 games left to play in the season, and in the half of a season. So you're going to have more rest than you did at the in the first half, and you're going to have more rest, especially than you did when you struggled this last week with so many games. So I really look for the Blackhawks to be able to stay rested because they're playing less games than they did in the first half. They're going to be able to rest guys a little more and stay more fresh, which is going to be good for them. I think this time off is going to do Taves a lot of good. I don't think he's been 100% most of the season. I don't know if it's nagging injury. I don't know if it's illness. I don't know what it is, but he hasn't been Johnny Taves this whole season, really. You see glimpses of it now and then, and he hasn't been bad. It's just he hasn't been that guy. I look for him to pick it up. You've already started seeing good things out of that top line. That second line with the Anisimov, Panarin, and Kane line is going to continue, I think, to be dominant. I'm hoping to start to see some stability in the third and fourth lines now that they've seemed to figure out who they like there. I hope that that stabilizes out and you get some consistent play there. The defense has been getting better, and Corey Crawford I think is going to keep being great. I have a feeling that the Blackhawks are going to be fighting for that best record in their conference come the end of the season, and I really think that they keep this train rolling because they've got too much talent. Barring any sort of major injury, they've got too much talent. I expect them to make a trade by the deadline to nothing superstar like last year. No, it wasn't even superstar. Nothing major like last year. I have a feeling they'll make a small-time trade to add some puzzle pieces to fill up that salary cap room that they have. But again, I want to hear what you guys have to think. And one last thing I want to talk about is I know typically don't talk about anything other than the Blackhawks as far as NHL goes, but I spoke out about this a couple weeks ago, the John Scott situation in the AllStar Game. And the NHL did their best to not let John Scott play, even though the fans voted him in. And ultimately, they recanted and let the guy play. And you had two moments that made national media. If you're the NHL, you've got your All-Star Game on a weird NBC channel that not every cable package carries. You want people to know. You want people to watch. You want people to pay attention. And what did you have? Two of your biggest moments as far as the All-Star Game goes involve John Scott. One was the All-Star or the introductions, and Patrick Kane got booed by the awful Nashville fans. And you're awful Nashville fans. You're terrible. You don't go to games. You don't even have professional sports there, and you're booing Patrick Kane. But whatever. John Scott just laughed like the deepest, darkest laugh, cackling away, and that made national news because it was hilarious. And then he fake fights with dropping the gloves with Patrick Kane during the All-Star Game. The two biggest moments of the whole thing. And then he ends up winning MVP. This is what is going to make your sport better. The NHL thinks we're going to show our best and brightest, and you need to do that on some level, but you have to have this human element. You have to connect people that don't watch the sport with something they can relate to. Being able to do these skills competitions or play 3-on-3, 3-on-3, I think it's fun, and I didn't expect myself to like it, just 3-on-3 hockey. But the issue is if you're playing your whole All-Star Game is 3-on-3, people that aren't fans of the NHL that maybe sit down to watch this, they're so confused. They're like, I saw another hockey game and it was 5-on-5. Now it's 3-on-3. I don't really understand. You change the rules up and you're not getting new fans because you're confusing them, and your old fans just get annoyed. You need to have some sort of element that non-fans can relate to. And I think the John Scott thing was an unintentional home run. I mean, you have this guy who is larger than life in a lot of ways. He's not a good hockey player. He might be one of the worst hockey players in the NHL. And he goes out there and he just, like, he gets nominated, he gets in, he gets the captain, he's on the winning team, he gets MVP, he has like these big bright moments of him laughing during some funny moments, and there's a fake fight, and it's all these things. It gets people that don't watch hockey to pay attention and look. And sure, most of them you're not going to convert to fans, but some of them, they're going to turn on another game and be like, I want to check this John Scott out. I mean, the guy sold out of all of his All-Star Game jerseys. The only guy that did that. So it's the NHL just needs to figure out exactly what it is that they're doing. The game is great. The game of hockey is amazing, and it's fun, and it's a blast to watch on television. It's a blast. It's one of the few sports that is even better live than in person. I mean, than on TV. The NFL used to be. NFL is much better on television now because you have such big TVs, you have better weather in your house, you have better snacks in your house, and you get all these extra camera views, and the same thing with baseball. Baseball, I don't know about you guys, unless I'm just sitting there drinking beer with my buddies, I'd much rather just watch it at home. I can put my feet up, I can put the air conditioning on, I don't have the sun beating down on me. Hockey, on the other hand, it's so much fun to go. It's just, everybody there is having a blast and watching the game and chattering, and the national anthem is amazing, and it's so fast paced. It's so much fun. So there's so much good about this game, and the NHL needs to figure out how to capture that and get these fans get these potential fans that aren't watching hockey. And some of that is finding relatable elements. Relatable guys like John Scott, who's not good enough. He's not the superstar. He doesn't have all these skills, and he still goes in there and gets the All-Star nod. Right or wrong, however you define the All-Star game, doesn't matter. If you let the fans vote, you got to let the guy play. The guy played. The fans enjoyed it. He was the biggest thing the whole All-Star game, the whole weekend, and fans ate it up. The NHL tried so hard to squash what ended up being the best thing about the game. So, NHL, sit down and stew about that a little bit. The Bulls. I want to talk quickly about the Bulls. They are so aggravating as a team. I can't even deal with it. In the past 10 games, the Bulls are like, what, 3-7 or 2-8, something like that. And during that span, they're 3-7. In that span, they've committed. I guess no, they lost today, so they'd be 2-8. So 2-8 in their last 10. They've got 145 turnovers compared to the other team's 98. So they've got 50% more turnovers than the other team. And it's not just that the turnovers are bad. It's how they're giving up these possessions. If you compare them last year to this year, they've gone up almost 5% on unforced turnovers. So the Bulls are just turning it over without pressure from the other team. Sometimes you understand it if you've got press coverage or people sitting in passing lanes or whatever the case may be. But the Bulls are just having unforced turnovers, and it's up 5% last year. And last year it was pretty high. It's just astronomical to think that an NBA team that's one of the top record teams in their conference, and they can't even maintain possession. And then if you look at cut efficiency, how effective that they're moving without the basketball, and it's half of what it was last year. They're just not moving well without the basketball, and they didn't have a good offense last year. this is a Tom Thibodeau team. They tried hard and they played scrappy defense and whatnot. But this team is worse. They're not playing defense. They're not playing the style of offense that they want to play, and they're just been so up and down. I mean, look, you beat Cleveland in a really great game, great team game, you play well. Then a tough loss to Miami. Then you come back with a big win against the Lakers in LA. Then you turn around and get blown out by the Clippers. This team, the turnovers are ridiculous. The vast number of turnovers, the way they're turning over the ball, the way they're not moving when they don't have the ball. They're having way too many isolations where they're doing a slow, stagnant style offense. And Hoiberg's just got to be so at wit's end with this team. I mean, it's just ridiculous play. They're not playing anywhere near what the new system wants them to be. If you want to see how this system is supposed to work and how Hoiberg wants you to play, is watch the game film when you played Golden State Warriors and don't pay attention to you. Pay attention to the Golden State Warriors. That's what Hoiberg wants you to do. He wants you to push the ball. He wants you to be aggressive on offense. He wants you to press it. He wants you to put the other team in a situation where they are not at their best and optimal position to make a play. Another thing is the Bulls are giving up so many three-point opportunities. I mean, they're giving up so many three-point opportunities. They're not rebounding the ball. They're not playing defense. It's ridiculous. And then you have your high-paid max contract player Jimmy Butler against the Clippers. He was 8 for 22 from the field. 8 for 22. But then when the win, he's 11 for 17 against the Lakers. But then against the Heat, he's 5 for 15. So you have your superstar player, the best player on your team, and he's not coming through in the clutch for you. When you need him to play well, he's not playing well. So in your losses, he's not playing well. What can you do about that? In this game against the Clippers, if you look at the plus-minus, not a single Bulls player was in a positive. Not a single one. They range from Taj Gibson's -1 all the way down to Bobby Portis's minus 26. Minus 26. You can't do that and be considered a top team. And it's not likely that this Bulls team is going to make a massive trade, because what are they going to do? Who are they going to move? They're going to look at their quote-unquote big acquisition at the trade deadline as Mike Dunleavy coming back. Does Mike Dunleavy has a huge impact? I thought he was going to this season because he was such a cog last year. Love him or hate him, regardless of what his stats were, he was a big cog, and the team played so much better with him. And you would hope to see that this year, but the back injury, it's a wild card. You don't know. You don't know what you're going to get with a guy in his 30s with a back injury. It's a wild card. You have no idea. You hope that he comes back in the same form he was last year, and he can be productive and really stabilize this team and help them push the offense and play better defense. It's what you hope. And it moves Dunleavy moves McDermott and Tony Snell back to the bench where they belong, and you can spot play those guys when you need them. You need better defense, you put in Snell. You need some three-point shooting, maybe you put in McDermott. It allows you more freedom in how you play the team. I don't know if it's going to be an impact. I don't think it's going to be nearly as much because of the back injury, but we shall see. But ultimately, is you got to figure out what you're going to do with this team. Paul Gasol, the team is already frustrated. If you listen to quotes from them after the game, they have no idea. They're talking about how inconsistent they are. They don't know what to do to fix it. The inmates are running the asylum with the Chicago Bulls. And Paul Gasol has already said he's going to leave, and there's no way he comes back. Even if you throw a lot of money at him, he doesn't want to play in this system. He wants to go play for somewhere where he can win. And this Bulls team is in a situation where they're good enough to compete in the Eastern Conference. They can't match up with anybody. They can beat anybody in the Eastern Conference. They really can. But they have absolutely no way they could beat a Western Conference team in a series. Just impossible. So they can't win a title. So what do you do going forward? Honestly, I think they really have to blow this team up and rebuild around the offensive scheme that you're trying to do with Fred Hoiberg, and pray that you can find a Steph Curry in the draft. I mean, that's really what you got to do. You've got to pray for something like that. Jimmy Butler you can keep. Bobby Portis you can keep. You could really get rid of everybody else and just start from scratch and build around the offensive system you're trying to run. I don't know what else to say. It's this Bulls team has just been such a disappointment. And then I guess that's really all I have to say about them. I want to quickly cover the Bears because we had a little bit of movement with the Bears, but we had a question came in. A listener wanted to know, what do we lose with the Chicago Bears by Adam Gase leaving? And that's a really good question. I thought about it a little bit, and it's the best question I think we've gotten so far, because it really makes you think, and we're going to find out an answer to that. Is I think Adam Gase was absolutely what the Bears needed this season. Is you brought somebody in that Jay Cutler trusted. He bought into the system. He didn't ever lose confidence in the system. Maintained it for the whole season. Even when things went wrong, he bought into this system and into his coach and the play calling. That is a huge victory. And it's not all on Adam Gase. Ryan Pace and John Fox had a hand in that too. As they sat down when they figured out who they wanted to hire as their offensive coordinator. They found somebody, and they did their due diligence on Jay Cutler. They figured out the things that made him tick, and they brought somebody in that can reach him, and he did. And so we're gonna lose a little bit of that rapport. And Adam Gase is a phenomenal play caller. Sure, sometimes he left you a little head scratching, and he was a little bit conservative at times, and then he would open things up, and you could see how much this offense could do when you open it up a little bit and put your foot on the gas. But he's a phenomenal play caller, and he tried to put the team in the best position they could be in, and you saw what kind of things they could do when you had healthy players, when you had healthy offensive line, healthy wide receivers, which was almost none this season, but you saw glimpses of what they can do. So Adam Gase is a phenomenal play caller. He really had a good rapport. He's the real quarterback whisperer, not Mark Trestman. So you're losing that, but the system that they're running, the Bears had options when Gase decided to leave to become a head coach, and they granted him that opportunity. They could have blocked it, but they granted him the opportunity because it's a good opportunity for Adam Gase. They had options because when you're John Fox and you've been in this league for a long time, you've made a lot of friends, you know a lot of people, you can hire a lot of people, even people with former head coaching credentials, and you can bring them to be supporting staff like an offensive coordinator. You can do those types of things because you've built that rapport. If you're a first-time head coach, it's really hard to hire another former head coach to be your assistant because you worry about undermining, you worry about these other things, and there's going to be issues there. But when you're John Fox, you're secure in what you do, you've made friendships, you know these guys, you know who's going to work. And they could have brought in any number of bigger names, but John Fox and Ryan Pace sat down and they realized that they still have Jay Cutler going now into a team-friendly part of the contract. He played well this year. They want to keep continuity with the system, so they're going to keep a similar system by promoting Dow Logans from quarterbacks coach to offensive coordinator. And Dow Logans is another very, very sharp mind. He also had a very good rapport with Jay Cutler. He's even closer in age to Cutler than Adam Gase was. So you have a guy that also has a good rapport. You keeping the continuity of your same management staff, your head coach and your general manager, and you're promoting the quarterbacks coach who had a very good rapport. And it's going to be a similar style system. Sure, the day in, day out plays are going to be a little different. Adam Gase's, the way he calls plays on a day-by-day, game-by-game basis and play-by-play basis is going to be different than what Dow Logans does. But the system that they run, the way they call things, the whole package, what they want to accomplish, that's a Chicago Bears system. That's what they're going to keep running. So Jay's going to have to learn a little bit how Dow Logans manage the game in-game, but the system's going to be the same. So you're going to keep continuity, and I think that was important. You might have gotten somebody with more experience as your offensive coordinator, but I think the continuity and maintaining the same system is going to be much more advantageous for the Bears and Jay Cutler and the wide receiving staff or the wide receiver core than going out and hiring somebody different. So what do we lose by Adam Gase? A little bit of we'll see, but I have, if you're asking me on the spot what I think personally, I don't think we're going to lose much. I trust in Dow Logans. The Bears' offense is going to be better talent-wise because you have to imagine that they're going to at least franchise tag Alshon Jeffrey or transition tag him. You're going to have a healthy Kevin White. They're going to shore up that offensive line. And so you're going to have healthy players, you hope. That's going to make it an apples to oranges comparison. And you're going to have continuity in the system. So you're going to have players be in the second year of a system, which usually yields better results than a first year. So you just hope that Dow Logans is able to be somewhat close to what Adam Gase was as an in-game manager. And even if he's 85-90% of what Adam Gase does in-game management, you're going to have a pretty good offense. So it's a tough loss to take because Adam Gase is a known commodity and he's very good at what he does. And Dow Logans is a guy who has less experience, but he has done the job in the past, and he is a capable guy. You just hope he learned a lot from Adam Gase. Fingers crossed. But quickly then too is you've had a few, when you have a stable coaching staff who've put a good team together, a good coaching staff together, and you saw improvement on your team. The bad part of that is that you're going to lose some of your staff to other teams poaching them. And you, of course, you have to grant permission for a guy to leave, but most of the time you allow the guy to go if it's a better opportunity for him. And for the Bears, they lost Adam Gase. Mike Groh, the wide receiver coach, he's moving to be the quarterbacks coach for the Los Angeles Rams, and he's being replaced by Dave Ragone, who was, I remember as a kid playing quarterback at Louisville. I still have his football card somewhere. Bo Hardigree, he was your offensive assistant. He's following Adam Gase to Miami to be the quarterback coach there. Darius Swinton, he was your assistant special teams coach. He's moving to San Francisco to be the 49ers special teams coach, so it's a step up for him. And then Jim Arthur, he was the assistant strength and conditioning coach for the Bears last year, and he's following Adam Gase to Miami as well. So that's really wraps up what you are losing to Miami, and then you lost a couple other guys. I don't think any of them are huge losses. Mike Groh, I'm not that sad with his loss. Dave Ragone's going to come in and be the new quarterbacks coach. You're going to bring in a new wide receivers coach. Bo Hart agree. I mean, when offensive assistant, that's a lower level position. He doesn't have that much control over how the team does. It's more of an internship, and he's getting a step up now to be the quarterback's coach in Miami. So that's a good opportunity for him. So sure, you're starting to lose guys, but I really feel like this coaching staff has a solid foundation. They're going to put good pieces into place. It's not like the Emery Trestman era when they were getting rid of guys because they were awful and they were replacing them with more awful people. This is a coaching staff that's very, very rock solid, and they're going to bring in other guys to fill in these holes. So I'm not that worried. But the last thing I want to talk about is, if you guys are new to the show, prior to the NFL draft is like my Christmas. I love the NFL draft. I used to go every year when I lived in Philadelphia. I would go up to New York to see it. When I moved back to Chicago in 2008, I didn't go because it was I didn't want to take time off of work to go back to New York. So I didn't go for several years, and they brought it back to Chicago, and I was excited. And hopefully the city of Chicago can keep the NFL draft because I love going, and they've turned it into such a spectacular event. But I digress. But what I do is, for the show, this is how the show started. It was, I wanted to scout players for the Bears draft. And what I do is every week I pick a position and I go through every position until we get to the draft. And I break down a bunch of the top players in the draft at that position. And a few factors to figure in is I don't watch highlight reels because I don't think they really tell you anything about the player. What I watch is I pull several games of that player's during the last college season, at least 2, sometimes up to as many 6 or 7 games, and I watch every single snap on the side where they were involved in the play. Even if if they were on the field, I watch the play. So I watch every single play they're involved in, so this week it's wide receivers. So even if it was a run play on the opposite side of the field they were on, I watch what that wide receiver did during that play. Did you just stand there like an oaf, or did he go out there and throw a block to just a guy because he needed to block somebody? So I watch all the offensive plays, and you get a sense of what their tendencies are and what they do well, what they don't do well, and it makes for much, much more in-depth look at somebody than watching just highlight reels. But this week is going to be wide receivers. Last week, if you want to go back and listen to last week's archive episode, we did the running backs. And if you highlight some of the things that the Bears are going to be looking for in this draft, they're going to be looking at offensive tackle, wide receiver, quarterback, edge rusher, inside linebacker, cornerback, and safety. I've gone through wide receivers and running backs so far, and the Bears, they really don't need a running back. They've got, if they bring Forte back, they've got their 3 running backs. It's already set. If they don't bring back Forte, they've got 2 capable running backs, and they've got good options for a third. So I don't see them drafting a running back in this draft unless somebody just phenomenal falls in their lap. And going through this wide receivers, this list, I really don't see anybody that I love with that number 11 pick. I think everybody, if I'm drafting, I think everybody's a reach at number 11. So I've ruled out them drafting wide receiver and running back in the first round. I'm leaning right now I'm expecting the Bears to either go offensive tackle, edge rusher, or inside linebacker. But with that, I want to go through the top wide receivers in the draft. The other point I want to make. Sorry, I sound like I'm jumping all over the place tonight. I'm just tired. It's been a long weekend. I spend a lot of time watching game film. It's really time demanding to watch all of this game footage. And I love doing it for myself. I love doing it for the show. I love doing it because I go on other podcasts and radio shows, and I talk about what the Bears drafts are and what I expect from these players. But I can't cover everybody that's eligible for the draft at every position. I just can't do it. So I pick 10 guys or so, 12 guys. But if there's anybody that I didn't do that you want me to go back and look, I'm more than happy to do it. I just sort of pick a bunch of names and I draw an arbitrary line in the sand of, all right, I'm not going to cover this guy just because I have to draw a line somewhere. But if you guys say, oh, you didn't do Jim Bob Jones from Southeast Podunk State, and I want to see what you think about him at wide receiver, let me know. So hit us up. The website is swerskisports.com, Twitter at Swerski Sports, Facebook.com Swerski Sports. Hit me up on any of those, and I will absolutely go back for the next show, watch game film, and break down that player, in my opinion. Because if you guys want to know somebody, I am more than willing to do this. So don't think that just because I've done wide receivers that I'm absolutely done. I will do anybody that you guys want me to do, and if I have an inkling that the Bears might be interested in somebody, I will go back and watch film of them too if I haven't already. So I'm going to start with Laquon Treadwell. He's 6'2", 210 out of Ole Miss. Pros for Treadwell: he's very willing and very capable blocker. I loved his attitude and his not just his attitude, but his ability and what the product was as far as him trying to block. Because sometimes there's people that want to block and they put the effort in and they're just terrible at it. They're not good. But he is very good blocker and he's very willing, and that's really good to see at a wide receiver. I think that goes far in the NFL. He's quick and he's fast and he's got great hands, and he doesn't catch the ball with his body. He reaches out with his hands and catches. And once that ball hits his hands, it doesn't bobble. It's like rock solid in there. But the cons, he gets a little bit too aggressive in his blocking, and he's gotten called for some holding penalties. That's not really good. He's had a few false starts at the wide receiver position, which is a little bit ridiculous, I think, because you just stand there and you watch the ball get snapped, and once the ball gets snapped, then you go into your play. He's really lanky. And even though he's 210, he looks much thinner than that. I worry about his ability to take hits and or get yards after the catch at the next level. And he can be a little sloppy in his route running, but my overall opinion is he's got some amazing hands, really athletic, seems to have some deceptive speed because of his long legs. He's a really good running or wide receiver in this draft, but I don't. If I'm the Bears, I don't see the value at a number 11. I think there's better players overall. I rank him pretty high on my big board, but I don't pick him at number 11. Next up, I have Corey Coleman, 5'10", 190 out of Baylor. Pros: he's got really nice hands. He can make some acrobatic catches. The cons: he's not a good blocker. He's not even a willing blocker. He just doesn't want that contact with blocking, which is, he half-asses it, for lack of a better term. He just throws his hands out there like, ole. It's bad. And if I was an NFL team, that would really turn me off. I want a guy who's fully committed, because being a good blocker is a team mentality, and that's what I want. I want to build a team. That turns me off a lot. But he gives a pretty miserable effort on the blocking end, and he needs to be more sideline aware. There was too many plays where he would catch a ball on the sideline and he's not cognizant of where the sideline is to get it down. He catches the ball, he gets his feet down, but not inbounds. He needs to be more cognizant of that. But overall, he's got good hands, but he lets way too many balls get to his pad. He took advantage of a lot of single coverage because of that spread offense. So even though he's a top-notch wide receiver in college, he didn't get double covered nearly as much because of that spread offense. So lots of college production because of that. But I wouldn't touch the guy. He seems lazy in his plays and in some of his route running. I don't touch this guy with a 10-foot pole. Next up, we got Michael Thomas from Ohio State, 6'3", 210. Pros, he runs really nice routes. Even though he's still 210, and when you looked at Laquon Treadwell, he's 6'2", 210. This guy is 6'3", 210. You would think that he would look lanky as well, but he really doesn't. He looks like he's got more of a stout body. And he can get a bit of a yards after the catch. It's nice to see. Cons, he had some drop issues at Ohio State, and he was overshadowed in a lot of ways by Braxton Miller, and he's not really much of a blocker. He struggled a lot versus Kendall Fuller at Virginia Tech, who's one of the better cornerbacks in the draft, and he excelled against other competition. So it's a little bit confusing there. But in a better wide receiver class, I think he drops down a lot. But this wide receiver class as a whole is pretty weak, so he rises to the top. I'm not saying Michael Thomas is bad. I just think he's got a lot of things that he needs to work on. And if you're going to be drafting what some people consider a first-round talent wide receiver just because of the lack of depth at this position, I think you're relying on too many question marks to put him in a first-round pick. I mean, he may overcome it. You never know. I mean, Tom Brady, he would have been a question mark in the first round because of he lost his position at Michigan, his starting spot, to another player, Drew Henson. So you would have had a lot of question marks drafting him in the first round, and every team did because they all passed him till the 6th. And he turned around and made it perfectly fine in the NFL. But then you have other guys who have questionable first-round talent or issues that they're involved with, and people overdraft on them, and they don't hit. With a first-round draft pick, you've got to get a guy that's bare minimum going to be a starter for multiple years and a stable guy. It doesn't have to be a superstar. You can't always hit a home run with superstars, but you've got to get a guy statistically. We covered this in maybe 2 months ago, where we broke down the two of the most stable teams in the NFL is the Green Bay Packers and the New England Patriots. We broke down how their draft classes went, and really what we found with first rounders is they're not necessarily drafting home run picks. They're drafting guys that are steady, stable starters. That's been the key. So that's what you got to do. And if you got a guy that's got too many question marks and it's a question mark whether or not he's going to be make it in the NFL, you want to find somebody that's got much more of the stable traits. So next up is Josh Dachshund from TCU, 6'2", 195. Again, he is a guy, despite the height weight that I just read, he's got the build of an NFL wide receiver. He's really willing to fight off press coverage at the line of scrimmage. He's willing to dive and go to the ground to make catches. He's really willing to go out there and do that. But TCU was a heavy run-first offense. He didn't get to showcase what he could do nearly as much, and he's kind of a meh blocker. Not bad, not good. Overall, I think he's got okay hands. He lays out for passes. I don't see him being a number one in the NFL, which makes me question drafting him this high. But I do think he can stretch the field a little bit, and he seems like he's going to be a nice building block on a team, but I don't see him being a number one wide receiver in the NFL. Next, we have Will Fuller out of Notre Dame, 6', 194. Coached really well. You can see that with him. He's got great speed. He's really lanky, but he's fairly well built. He's a good route runner, and he's a really willing blocker. Cons, even though he tries and he's a willing blocker, he's not a very good blocker. But he tries, and you can work with try. He ran a lot of at Notre Dame, he ran a lot out of a bunch formation. So that's something to take note of him. I like him a lot, but I'm worried that he won't be able to work a ton out of press coverage just because of he just doesn't look like he's a strong guy. A lot of it is he's using his speed to get by guys, so he'll run a route and put a second move on somebody and be able to go. In the NFL, you're going to have coverage over the top, and you're going to have people jamming you at the line of scrimmage. And I just worry that Will Fuller's not going to be able to overcome that. He's going to have to get stronger. That's my big concern about him. But if he's able to put on the strength and be able to get off press coverage, I think Will Fuller could be a good wide receiver in this league. Next is Tyler Boyd out of Pitt, 6'2", 200 pounds. He's a really good route runner. He's good after the catch. He's got experience returning kicks, nice speed. He will put his head down and run through a tackler after he catches the ball. He's a pretty lackluster / lazy blocker. Even when the play would come his way, if it wasn't diagrammed his way, he was not even attempting to throw a block. I've seen plays where the guy he should have been blocking went all the way to the other side of the field and made the play because he never even got a hat on him. Nothing. And that's really infuriating. And if I was a coach, I would just lose my crap over that. He avoids contact a lot, and he's had some bad drops. And in my notes, I put he lost way too many one-on-one battles with cornerbacks to be a high draft pick for me. He irked me a lot on too many plays where the man covering him was going for the interception, and if the guy got better position or it was a bad throw, you didn't see Tyler Boyd trying to play defensive back and break the pass up. He just let it go. And he just let the interception happen. And that's just a no-no. You can't have that. If you see that it's a bad throw or somebody jumped underneath the coverage, you've got to play defensive back. You've got to stop that from getting intercepted. Next, we have Pharoh Cooper out of South Carolina, 5'11", 210 pounds. He's got nice speed. He's always has his eyes set on taking the ball to the house. So whenever he catches it, he's always looking upfield. He's always trying to figure out. He's not just looking for the line or the first down marker. He is looking to take it to the house. Really versatile guy. They put him in a lot of different packages. Cons, he doesn't take care of the ball that well. He had way too many drops, too many fumbles, and a few muffs on punts. He looks small despite his size. So they say he's 5'11", 210, but he looks much smaller than that. I'm really torn on Cooper. I think he's got a ton of heart. I think he's got a ton of talent, but he has a lot of limiting factors, I think, and I see him more as a slot receiver at the next level. If he works on things like taking care of the ball and being able to put on a little more muscle, I really think he could make it as a slot receiver in this league. The last couple guys, we have Rashard Higgins, 6'2", 188 out of Colorado State. He's got fantastic hands, and on tape, he might have been the best wide receiver I watched on film so far. He struggled a lot with physical corners, so guys like Richard Sherman will give him fits because just being able to be physical. He's way too lanky. He's not going to be a guy that comes in year one and works it. He's going to have to come in and get some spot play and work in and make himself better for his second year. He's going to have to grow into that body a little bit. Much too lanky. But he was the go-to guy at Colorado State. He had great production despite every team gearing up to stop him. But he's going to need to get bigger and stronger to play in the NFL. But I really loved what I saw on film. And if he's able to get that strength and size on his frame, you watch out for Rashard Higgins. And the last guy I covered was Sterling Shepard out of Oklahoma, 5'10", 193. He's quicker than he is fast. He's got an NFL-sized body, and he comes from a big-time program. Oklahoma's a big-time program. But the issue with him, the one issue I saw is he catches everything in his body. He's not a hands catcher at all, and that's kind of a no-no. And we'll see what happens at the combine. I don't really put a lot of stock in the things at the combine, but the pass catching, there's things I do want to take away. Like for him, I'm going to watch the wide receiver drills, and I want to see how he catches the ball. If he reaches out and he's able to catch with his hands. But if you can't hands catch in the NFL, that's trouble. You can't catch everything in your body. This guy screams NFL slot receiver. He's got NFL size. He's a real battler. He battles. A big-time program. I wish he was more of a hands catcher. If he was a hands catcher, I would love this guy. He would be my top wide receiver. But I really like Sterling Shepard. I think he's really fantastic. I hope he makes it. I love some of the things he's able to do on the field. And that's going to wrap it up for wide receivers, unless you guys come to me and say, hey, you forgot Braxton Miller. You forgot this guy. You forgot that guy. There's guys you want me to go and look at. I'm more than willing to do that. And if we come down to it and I'm hearing rumblings that the Bears are looking at a wide receiver, of course I'll cover them too. Those are the two cases I'll go back and willingly look at other wide receivers. And next week, I'm going to do defensive tackles. That should be a fun one because then we're starting to get into the position where the Bears really could be picking somebody at number 11. So that's going to do it for this episode of Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. Make sure you guys are subscribing however you're listening on iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, however you're listening. Make sure you subscribe. Tell your friends about us. Give us 5-star reviews. Anything to help grow the show. I love doing it. I love the fans that listen to it. I love getting feedback from you guys. It makes me feel like this is totally worth it. But most of all, thanks for listening. And until next time, bear down.
Cubs win! What a lucky break! The good Lord wants the Cubs to win!
We thank Ditka and God for all they have provided.
Cubs win! Cubs win! Cubs win!
Oh, I don't want her. You can have her. She's a Packer fan. She can't fit in my van.
And she looks like number New Yorkers. Smoking crack is not legal on planes.
Bears 31 to -7.
The Bears.
Oh, when the Bears go bearing down.